What's up, everyone? My name is Patrick Jones. I am the host of the Patrick Jones Baseball Podcast. I'm a former hitting coach in the Baltimore Orioles organization, and now I currently have my own facility and work with baseball hitters and softball hitters as well. So in today's episode, though, I have Don Weatherwax, and we're talking nutrition. So Don specifically helps baseball and softball players with their nutrition. What should they be eating? What shouldn't they be eating? How to put on weight, how to lose weight. She gives a ton of great tips and a lot of facts that really, for me, even personally, even though I felt like I knew a little bit before we recorded this episode, really just changed the way I thought about nutrition and hydration and just how important it truly is, especially for baseball and softball players. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel below. And if you have any feedback, put them in the comments section. So thanks, and hope you enjoy this with Don Weatherwax. All right, we now welcome on Don Weatherwax of Sports Nutrition to Go. Don, thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So you obviously are in the nutrition space. I know you work with a lot of athletes, a lot of, baseball players, even that I know, and you've done a really good job with them. What would you say is like the most common mistake that players make when it comes to nutrition?
Well, the one I think is that a really good statistic out there is 75% of athletes undereat or not eating the right stuff at the right times. And that is the big thing already, right? When you say what's the number one is 75% aren't even thinking about it. They're not putting it into their training plan. It's not part of their routine. It's not even a thought process a lot of times. And that's the biggest mistake, is just being aware that it is as important, if not even more, to the foundation of their baseball success.
Is there a certain amount of calories that you recommend players try to intake like during the season? Like right now it's the summertime, and a lot of these guys are out there, or girls are out there playing in the hot weather, burning a ton of calories. Is there a certain number? I know it's generic and it's based on the person and things like that, but I didn't know if there was like a general range that you've normally kind of recommend.
Yeah. As far as a range, and just as you pointed out, Patrick, is that we are all different, and at female and male gender wise, and then lean weight, how much lean weight do we have, to just our genetics. But for females, for softball, it's roughly anywhere from usually 2,200 to 2,800. And then if that female athlete who plays softball does soccer, does other sports, then you can hear that would have to likely go up. As far as baseball goes, my male athletes, and again, we could have young ones on the call or listening today, or parents, is that usually if they're under 100 pounds, probably 2,000 to 2,500 is minimum, but it can also go as high as 5,500 calories for those athletes that have struggled putting on lean weight. So the range you can hear is vast, right? So females, again, really could range 2,200 to 2,800 with softball only. But then for baseball, only, it really can veer from 2,000 up to 5,500, depending on age and just genetics and what's going on with that.
And when you say, 22 to 2,800, then up to 5,500 for the guys, I assume those aren't just the general calories. Like when I go get a Blizzard at a Dairy Queen, right? Like, does that count towards those 5,500 calories?
Well, you put out a very good fact, Patrick, because I always have a freebie rule. Okay. And I say one freebie a day or a couple of meals a week. And what is a freebie is something that's very high in sugar. So a bag of Skittles, and that would be a normal bag of Skittles, not the king size or a super size bag. When you're talking a Blizzard, a freebie would be the small, okay. Not the large. because you're talking probably 1,000-calorie difference between that small and large blizzard, which actually sounds pretty yummy right now. But it does. When you ask, I kind of veered from a freebie because I think a lot of kids, if they can understand what a freebie is, something that's really high in sugar or something that's really high in fat, especially anything fried is a freebie. Wings, burgers, Chick-fil-A, if you get the breaded sandwich, waffle fries, and lemonade. Well, that's sugar. And then your fried is roughly 50% fat, and it's fried at a very high temperature. So it's really not a healthy fat anymore. Is that it does make a difference on what you eat. If you said, well, Dawn, you told me I can eat 5,500 calories and this blizzard is 1,500 calories. So now I got 4,000 more calories to go. If you go about the nutrition piece like that, you will not come close to maximizing your success because there's true nutrient timing on this. If you get too much added sugar, which I like to keep added sugar to less than 30 grams or less a day, not around activity though. So, but added sugar is not fruit. So fruit is a natural sugar. It's already in the produce. It's not added. And so that's the difference. And milk, like regular milk, when it says that sugar, they count the carbs. The lactose is what it's called, which is considered the carb component, is in the milk already. You're not adding something to it. So that is not an added sugar. So we want to keep our added sugars to 30 grams or less a day. And then, but if you had a sports drink during your training or during your baseball game, because of different factors, I'm not going to count those sugars at that time because it is around activity. And then let's say we have chocolate milk for post-recovery. Well, chocolate milk is white milk with cocoa flavoring with added sugar added. And so that if we have chocolate milk not around post-recovery, then I'm going to tell you to add that in. But if you eat a lot of added sugar, the body doesn't know what to do with that. It doesn't have any vitamins or minerals in that. And on top of it, it loves to create a higher body fat and higher inflammation. And the same thing goes with saturated fat. Let me just see if I brought it with me. Sometimes I have it with me and I do. You got lucky. This is saturated fat. And saturated fat looks like Crisco or lard at room temperature. But when it's heated, it's liquid. So for us in Cincinnati, we have a restaurant that's local called Skyline. And Skyline, they're cheese conies. It's a hot dog with cheese or cheese in this chili sauce, but it's not Texas style chili. It's chili like you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Just Google it. You'll figure it out.
Right.
For those who don't live in Cincinnati. But just to give you a heads up, one coney is 58% fat. With the cheese off of it, with the hot dog and the meat, the chili on it is 50% fat. And it's not healthy fat for the majority of it.
Yeah.
And so think about that. Would you want me to put 50% of this on your plate? And you said, well, Dawn, that tastes awful good. I don't know if you would eat that if I just put like half of your plate of that on there. But for some reason, in donuts and Ritz crackers and club crackers and wings and burgers and butter and mayo and all this great stuff, it is saturated fat. And you want to keep it to 10% or less a day. Because when somebody just says, oh, you need to gain lean weight, just eat, that is by far wrong information. You don't just eat. I always tell people I've done this for 25 years and my practice would not be growing each year if it was just about eating. They wouldn't need me because that's pretty easy to do is just eat 3 Dairy Queen blizzards a day and you're up to 4,500 calories and the conversation.
So one freebie a week.
Well, okay. One freebie a day.
One freebie a day.
When it comes to something small, right? Or 1 or 2 meals a week, or maybe a couple of freebies. And like, let's put that again. What is a freebie? So a freebie could be an ice cream cone, a small blizzard. It could be a can of soda. It could be, and it's not a 20-ounce soda. It's not a 60, it's a standard 12-ounce size. That's one freebie. A cookie this big or a packet of Oreos. That's a freebie. And if as far as you like chips, so a bag of chips that is fried, that's a standard size, that's a freebie, but not the $4.99 bag is mini freebies. It's at least 8 to 10 freebies if you ate that whole bag of Cheetos or Doritos, because those are very popular. So that's what a freebie is. And that, I think, if people use that as a guide, that is going to help them, because what do people do? What do? They eat what they want. We have become a society of convenience in the United States. If we have outside listeners, not very few people eat the way we do in the United States, because we are a way of
we do have outside listeners. So yes, you're right.
Yeah. So in the United States, we just have convenience foods, but you go somewhere else and you're not going to find as much convenience foods. You're going to find a lot more fresh markets and buying fresh foods as you go. And it's just not as abundant, but I don't live in every part of the world.
Right.
And I'm sure in big cities, they're going to still find a lot of convenience. But here in the United States, it's just a mess of convenience and not a lot of fresh foods. And so what's happened is we eat what we want. We don't eat what we need. And so if I create that freebie rule, then guess what happens? Now you have to start eating other things.
Right. That's a great point. I was listening to someone the other day talk about, elite athletes, and it's not necessarily, what they do that makes them elite. It's what they don't do. Right. So it's, eating all this other crap, that type of a thing, and the chips and the ice cream. It's the stuff they don't do that makes them look the way they look physically. And so I think if you kind of just, reshape that in your mind, it's easy to be like, oh, okay, I don't have to do all these things. It's just what I have to stop doing. Right. Because I think everybody can do what you said, do this small freebie, and, you still get whatever that kick is that you're still looking for, but it's just smaller. Right. And so I think over time, that's going to help you out. Even if you did exactly everything else the same, that's going to help you out. If you just take exactly what Don said right there and do those small freebie, just one a day, that would help out. That would provide value, even if we talked about nothing else the rest of this podcast.
Of course, because we look at what people do and they're looking for quick tips that's achievable. And then you might go through your day. And I challenge anybody who's listening, hey, count how many freebies you had today, right? How many freebies meals do you have a week? And start adding that up. And then you go, wow, I eat 5 to 6 freebies a day. Okay. Can you get it down to 3 or 4? Can you get it down to 2 or 3? Can I make a better choice next time when I'm traveling? Because I get a lot of excuses from my baseball players. Well, it's difficult when I travel. And I go, well, you know what? That's just lack of planning. Because nowadays, if you go to Chick-fil-A, that's you of lack of choosing.
Right.
Because
or even McDonald's, honestly, even McDonald's.
Yeah, because you can get a grilled chicken sandwich, and that's really healthy. You can get a grilled chicken wrap, and those don't taste bad. And even if you still get a fry, but they have apple slices for 50 cents. So to me, I'm like, you can get 2 grilled chicken sandwiches. You can get 2 to 4 packets of apples if you wanted to do that, and a yogurt. And I know those yogurts are still higher in sugar, but it's just the concept, right? And then get a milk, or if you had to, get a Powerade if you just don't want to do water. And there you go. And those chicken sandwiches are 300 calories. So that's 600 plus some apple slices. And then you throw in some other stuff on your own, you're actually doing pretty well. But if you go to Cane's, I just go, what are you doing? If they have a Cane's, they have a lot of other options.
Right. There's some other chains around there. Yeah.
Yeah, Cane's is like a newer chain. So if you live like in a remote area, that's a newer chain. That means they have a McDonald's and they have a Wendy's and they have, you can even get pizza. I'd rather you like order a thin crust, light on the cheese pizza, and they'll be happy to do light on the cheese. And then if you really need a meat, here's a cool tip. Just put Canadian bacon, because that's lean ham. Okay, that's a lean meat, and or chicken, grilled chicken. Who doesn't like chicken parm? So why wouldn't you? A lot of people don't always like the thought of barbecue chicken, so they don't think about, well, I don't want the barbecue chicken pizza, but you just say, I would like grilled chicken on my cheese pizza. And
what about
like
ham and pineapple pizza?
Love it, because guess what it is?
Okay.
It's Canadian
Great.
bacon with a fruit, and then you get a thin crust and light on the cheese, and that's a million times healthier than a lot of the options, and it's substantial, right? And most pizza places, again, have salads with dressing like an Italian or an oil-based dressing, and you can put that on the side, and that's very feasible as a team as well, to get 2 to 3 pizzas, large pizzas, Canadian bacon with pineapple, Canadian bacon, grilled chicken, because they're going to like the grilled chicken, because most people like grilled chicken with a marinara and cheese on it. And then you go, okay, and as liquids, it's water. In that time, maybe it's a sports drink, just because if it's around and it's so hot outside, you don't always need those, but it's just all relevant on what's going on. And you pair it up with a salad, or, this is the other thing people forget about grocery stores. There's grocery stores. Go to the grocery store. You just buy boar's head lean meat, buy some bread, put some cheese slices on that, and then go get some bananas or strawberries, cut up a watermelon. If you don't have a knife, you pretty much can just crack it on the thing. You can be creative. Excuses don't work with me anymore on the travel part.
Yeah. Well, especially with as you've been saying, with all the resources out there and what people have access to, and DoorDash and Uber Eats and everything else out there. Well, I tell you what, though, I'm very happy to hear. So ham and pineapple is my favorite pizza, and I've been having that since I was 8 years old. And I've always told myself, well, I'm getting this because it's healthy. And now I have you confirming that. So I feel much better about my life as of right now.
Yeah. Now, if we could throw a couple of extra vegetables in with that.
Yeah.
Good, right?
So you mentioned earlier about chocolate milk post-workout. Is that something post-game that players should be doing too?
Yeah. It's very fascinating with baseball because it's a different beast, right? It's different than soccer and lacrosse. And you really can eat during the game. And I did a Food First Speed podcast with Nick Kinney. He's the head athletic trainer for the Kansas City Royals. And, I'm so excited to hear that even at the major leagues, they're finally getting it, that they eat during a game. They have, they just go right behind the door. They have a refrigerator and they can eat. Now, I know most little kids' dugouts or most athletes don't have a refrigerator, and it leads into a training room and a clubhouse. But with that being said, this is that mindset of bring your own little cooler, or you have your bat bag so you can eat. With the chocolate milk question, though, is if you had a game, and do you need chocolate milk post game? I could say yes, but to me, it's not as intense of a game that you need to just to recover and repair at that time. Most of the time, if you're doing strength training or your workout's longer than 2 hours and it's intense, then you want 10 to 20 ounces of chocolate milk as an option. Why is that an option? Just so you know, because if you want 10 to 20 grams of protein and you want 30 to 60 grams of carbs within that time frame. Now, if you weigh less than 100 pounds, I say go with half, right? Like 10 to 30. If you weigh over 100 pounds, 20 to 60, and that's 10 to 20 ounces of chocolate milk, just so you know that. That's how the math works. Let's say I don't like chocolate milk, but I like white milk. Well, then throw a large banana with that, because the 10 to 20 has the protein, just not enough carbs. So you can throw a small or large banana, and that's going to give you the carbs. It does not matter if it's liquid or solid. And to break this down into more, is your muscle uses carbs as you're doing an activity, and it uses protein. Now, protein does not like to be used for this stuff, okay? Like hitting, grounding, it's not for that. There's just other things going on in the body that it's pulling it out. But the main fuel it's burning is fat and carbs. Well, we know baseball, think of your carbs as gas. Well, how much carbs do you think you need for baseball or gas versus how many carbs or gas do you need for soccer? You already know the answer. You need way more for soccer than baseball. So this is where, hey, if I have a game and I chose not to bring anything with me to eat during the game because I started at 8 and now we had a double header, or we had a rain delay and I didn't come prepared, then I'd say do a chocolate milk post because you really need it. But in that scenario, you should have had a sandwich where you can nibble on. You can have jerky. And, if you're somebody who's like, well, my coach tells me not to eat in the dugout, I go, well, let's have a conversation with that coach and educate. Because here's the deal. Most people just don't want a mess. They don't want trash on the floor. And if it smells like really good, then everybody's like, oh my gosh, that smells so good. And you're not sharing it with me. That's not fair. But if you have just a regular sandwich and an apple, or a regular sandwich and a banana, or let's go with a protein bar and some trail mix with some nuts and dried fruit, I don't really think they're going to be saying anything to you. But this is just us getting out of the mindset of not being prepared.
So it should be mandatory that you are bringing something with you to eat or snack on during the game.
I say it's mandatory because we don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes
you mean like how long the game is?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, because what you're going to learn about me, it's really hard for me to be like, yes, because sometimes you don't, because that game's lasting an hour, 90 minutes. And let's say you had a really good breakfast at 8, and then your game goes from 9 to 10:30. Do you really need a snack? Maybe not there. But guess what? You could do an applesauce, maybe something light. But some of you need 5,000 calories. So heck yeah, you need something there because you need to fuel, because you need 5,000 calories a day.
Right. And I would say most of the athletes who are going to be listening to this and the parents, they do need to put on weight more than anything else. So I think,
So then you have to optimize that time, and you can't just kill the calories later because your body can't absorb of that. They can't digest all of that. You're not going to magically maximize muscle. It's just a mess. It's a hot mess. And here's the thing too, food is fuel and affects your brain. Hydration affects your brain. If you're 1% dehydrated, your performance declines up to 12%. 66% of athletes show up dehydrated. And here's a really big kicker for baseball. It's important for every sport. But if you're 1% dehydrated, your ability to track an object decreases by 10%. Think about that. 1% dehydration leads to a 10% decrease in tracking an object. Well, that's the whole point of baseball, is tracking that object. And then 95% of your first movement is controlled by eyesight. So are you going to swing? Are you not going to swing?
We need to put that on a t-shirt. We got to put that on a t-shirt and start selling that. That's the most valuable thing that anybody could take from this episode, what you just said right there. I mean, because what are we talking about? This game is so mental. If you can't focus and lock in and your eyesight's affected and everything, I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah. And I even know somebody who does brain health, and they have MRIs of brains that are dehydrated. Like, dehydration affects your brain. I got to get one of those pictures. But she's like, yeah, you get a picture and they've shown it that hydration affects your brain. So it's not even your muscles. And your eyes are in your brain. So it kind of makes sense there too, if we just want to make some common sense out of that. And I would say for baseball, 100%, that's the number one rule, right? Is you have to go into it hydrated and then you have to stay hydrated because that is 66% show up, 1%. Now, here's another good fact. You're not thirsty until you're 2 to 4% dehydrated. So once you're thirsty, you're a doo-doo. It's too late because I don't know about you, but unless you're a major leaguer and you got some doc in the back room that can stick an IV in your arm, you aren't making millions of dollars to get that done. And yeah, they're not going to IV you in the dugout at age 10 or 12 or 16 unless you have heat exhaustion. And then you might have a physician on board that happens to have IVs in their car. So
yeah, and probably at that point you're probably out of the game.
Probably not doing so great, right? Like they're dunking you in a side tank. That's the athletic trainer in me. Yet they're zipping you to the hospital. So it's the small
so should
things
they be what like a gallon a day? How much would you say? No.
Okay, so here's another good tip for your listeners. Okay, so here's the guide. A minimum of half of your weight in fluid ounces a day, plus 10 to 20 ounces per activity minimally. Okay, I'm going to repeat this again, and I better just put this disclosure out. Right. This is an educational podcast. This is not medical. So somebody out there, which there could be, has some kidney issues. This is not going to be the right information.
Don't blame Dawn.
Healthy individuals. This is how my brain thinks. I'm like, well, we got to put this disclosure out.
Well, you have to, yeah.
Your weight in fluid ounces a day plus 10 to 20 ounces per activity. So think per game. Now, there's some flaws in this because some of you might sweat way more than that 10 to 20 ounces per game. But I need you to just start doing the math. Let's do it right now. If you weigh 180 pounds, half of that is 90 fluid ounces plus a game is 20. So that's 110 fluid ounces minimally. Now, if your answer is, Dawn, yes, I do that, then I might go, okay, well, now we need to take it to another level. But here's the deal. 66% of you minimally don't even do that. So you have to get there first before we start to fine tune the information. And what counts as fluid? Does it have to be just water? No, it doesn't have to be just water. It can be infused waters. It can be unsweetened iced teas. It could be milks. It could be nut milks. It could be protein shakes if it's just protein powder and nothing else. And what I mean by that is just other things in the protein outside of carbs, fats, and protein. It could be smoothies. I'll count 100% smoothies that you make on your own. I'm not going to condone a lot of smoothie places because a lot of them are a lot of just added sugar. So you're getting my gist there that even sports drink stirring, I'll count. Some juice, I'll count. So now when you start adding all of that in, you might be closer. It does not have to be just plain water. Okay. So half of our weight in fluid ounces a day, plus 10 ounces per kids under 100 pounds, 20 ounces per activity if you're over 100 pounds. And again, it's my thing there. A lot of people just say half of your weight, but they're missing the boat on that. That's just to function. And honestly, it's supposed to be 67% of your weight in fluid ounces a day. And I don't know about you, but 67 starts to go like this. 50 is like, oh, I can calculate that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
If you're not hitting those marks, you're not close to being hydrated enough.
Dawn, can you talk a little bit about breakfast? And, obviously, I think everybody knows how important it is, but what are some simple ways that athletes can get the day started on a good note? I hear a lot of times, well, I'm not hungry. I get up too late. I'm in a rush and all these other things. I mean, what's a good breakfast for a baseball or softball player?
Sure. Well, some more fun facts to start is 33% of athletes skip breakfast. And if you skip breakfast, the stats say that your performance will decline up to 5% in the afternoon if you skip breakfast. So for those 33% that skip breakfast and you have something in the afternoon, you're increasing your odds of performance to decline up to 5%.
Wow.
2 is if you're skipping breakfast, then you're likely not eating enough because you're skipping a whole opportunity. 3 is if you're not hungry, I would challenge you. You might be the person eating a lot of calories before you go to bed because we want to eat 2/3 of our calories by the time 2/3 our day is over, not 2/3 of our calorie at the end of the day. And again, what is food? Food is a calorie. Calorie is heat, and heat is energy. So why in the world are we giving our body energy before we go to bed? Yes, I believe in snacking before bed if it's a good one and you eat the calories, but you can't eat all 2/3 of your calories after the fact, especially at night, for many reasons, but that's a big one. And if you're not hungry, and it's not that, because what I'm saying is if you eat a lot, then a lot of times, why would you wake up hungry? Because you ate a lot of your calories at night and your body is still working off of those. Is if you have a finicky stomach, I still would like something small. So if you have something like a finicky stomach, go start with something simple. You can start. Fruit is always a best friend. Bananas, grapes, apples, oranges, pears. I mean, watermelon right now, depending on the season and where you're at, if you have a lot of fresh fruit available, then that works unbelievably well. It could be just simple toast. It could be dry toast. It could be half of a bagel. You could put a little bit of like Land O'Lakes, olive oil, sea salt, butter on it. You could put some peanut butter or almond butter, preferably natural or organic. Don't like extra stuff added. I just like it to be the nut with the salt. And that's going to help too, because you don't have to gob it, but just a little bit of a layer. Avocado is very popular, and those and applesauce, those are easy ones to kind of digest if you have a finicky stomach. But for others, you can have an egg sandwich, and you can make egg sandwiches the week before as long as you wrap them up tightly. Or another trick is you just take a whole bunch of eggs, mix them up, and just get a sheet pan, and then you spray the pan real well and put it in the oven. And now you got a sheet pan. Now you just cut it up in squares, make your sandwiches, and then you can freeze them or put them in the refrigerator for the week. And you could do something like that. And that's really easy to do. Or you walk out the door with the peanut butter and jelly, or peanut butter, banana, honey, or it could be on a tortilla. Again, you can make that stuff the night before, especially on a tortilla, because it doesn't get mushy. Or add the jelly or honey the morning of, whatever. And you add a banana and a big glass of milk or soy milk or to get your protein, and out the door you go. And I just say reuse some water bottles and, fill them up with milk, make all your sandwiches or whatever. And then, hey, just go out the door and go with it. And that's pretty easy as well. So those are things that you can do. Or a breakfast burrito that's frozen, that's pre-made, Evolve and some other healthy breakfast burritos. You can run down the stairs or go into the kitchen and throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes. And while you're grabbing your bat bag or your shoes or brushing your teeth, and run out the door with it. Breakfast doesn't have to stop at the door. Another trick is a smoothie. If you're really struggling, because you can make a 5 to 1,000 calorie smoothie. And how you do that is how much fat you're adding, like chia, nut butters. If you can't do nuts or peanuts, you can do sunflower seeds. You guys, you don't even have to put it in the nut butter form. You can just put it in its whole form and put it in the Ninja or the Vitamix. It actually still will be fine. And then take it with you. And I don't care if it takes you 3 hours from 6 to 9 or 7 to 10 to drink that whole smoothie. Well, guess what? Now we're hydrating. Now we're getting our protein, because we'll put yogurt or milk or soy milk or protein powder in that. And then you're sipping on it, and it's pureed. So it tends to work well for needing high calories. It tends to work well on the go. It tends to work well if you have a finicky stomach. So you can make many needs with that tip.
So if you work with Dawn, there's going to be no excuses for not getting better.
I still meet you where you're at, but I just kind of go, you just have to keep working on goals to get you rethinking how you do things and to set a rhythm. And once you start setting a new rhythm, then it becomes easier and easier. But we tend to eat the same 30 foods over again and again. And a lot of people struggle with veering from those 30 foods or those habits.
One of the things that I'll tell players is, because being able to hit the ball harder is such an important task, right? In hitting, to be able to, you're going to be able to catch up to velocity. You're going to be able to drive in runs, all these things, right? And so it's force, and that's mass times acceleration. That's force. And so you can accelerate all you want to, but if you don't have any mass or anything behind it, it's not going to go that far, right? Mm-hmm. And so being able to just take care of your body. And one of the things that really didn't surprise me, but I did notice when I was in professional baseball, is the best players ate so well. I mean, they took nutrition so seriously. And I'm talking some of these guys were just, young. I mean, 20, 21, 22, but they were all the best players. They took it so seriously. And again, not to say that, the other guys didn't, but it was just, they go out to eat and they would just do kind of what you said. It'd be smart. They wouldn't go overboard with anything. And it was just consistent day in and day out. And I just wanted to say that because I want younger players. I think sometimes they just assume that guys in the big leagues or, women's, college softball, that they're just automatically that good. But it's about what they don't do, like we said before, that makes them, part of that equation of being that good.
Yeah, and to add on what you just said, right, is you worked really hard to go to that level, and only 1% or less get to go to that level, and the competition is vast. And you're competing. There's a lot of great baseball and softball players that didn't get to the level that they probably could have because of many factors, right? You have to compete against that. And you have to understand, if you want a competitive edge, I try to tell people why I have a job and why I love working with athletes. I work between ages 6 to 18. I work with adults. I work with pro athletes. But it's now. If you understand now, this is an unbelievable competitive edge because you're going through puberty. And this is the time you want to maximize every year you got. So for instance, I had a female. Now she was a swimmer, 12. She was tired. She was only eating 1,800 calories a day. Now, mind you, she was only 5 foot and 96 pounds. But she wasn't eating the protein the way it should at the right times for her. She wasn't eating enough. And then she was eating just a lot of white stuff and not a lot of good quality. 80% of the time when we changed it, great energy. Fast forward 9 months down the road. For 9 months in a row, she had best times, personal best, in at least one event, 9 months in a row. But what's a kicker is, in that 9 months, her body put on 10 pounds of lean weight and lost 10 pounds of fat. And I kid you not, the only thing that changed was nutrition. Now that is crazy because that is a cardio-based sport. And she's 12. And she grew 1.5 inches. So that doesn't even equate for the leanness that she got. And that's how it works for you. And so imagine where you are at age 13. Where you are at age 14, 15, 16. I literally, when I work with people, I a lot of times can map out a Division I baseball player. I can map out a body of a major league baseball player. Here's the thing. If you have an athlete that's 11 or 12, and here's an instance of another athlete that I work with. He's 11. Okay. So you're like, what, 11? Well, here's the thing. They heard me speak. And I said, okay, what positions do you play? Now, your average first baseman in the major leagues has 191 pounds of lean weight, not total weight, not total weight, lean weight. This child was weighing 80 pounds at age 11. Okay, well, okay, we're not going to, some people get drafted early, but you still have to work the system. Very few people in baseball get drafted, and it's like, okay, no, I'm playing for I'm not playing for 1A, AA, triple. Very few go right to the top and get drafted. It's like, no, we're going to build you up, and then you pray you make it. So let's do the math on this, right? Okay, he weighs 80 pounds. And he also plays first base and he pitches. Okay, I'm telling you, you need to weigh 110 pounds more just to have 191 pounds of total weight. Are you going to gain that much weight now? How are you going to do the math? And then the light bulbs start to go off because I go, you're not going to magically conquer that at age 16. It will not happen. So those athletes that are underweight, you have to really be thinking about this now because it does work. Because we set a goal from October to April to put on, we said 1 pound to 2 pounds a month. That's it at age 11. And he's now 91 pounds and he did it. And he actually grew 2 inches because eating enough of the right things helps you grow, especially if you're chronically underweight, because the body can't grow if you're undernourished. I don't care what people say, I see it too much. So now we're starting to fill in the gaps, right? But if you don't understand this concept, you're not going to get there. Now, let's say you're an athlete that carries extra body fat. You still have to know what your lean weight is because the average male in puberty, okay, can only put on 0.5 to 1 pound of lean weight a week if they do the nutrition, training, and recovery properly. Now, I'm going to count recovery as 80% sleep. Yeah. There's a lot of recovery, okay? I mean, major leagues, man, you got it all. But which is 80% is sleep. Enough sleep, 9 to 11 hours.
Whoa, 9 to 11?
Yeah. They're kids growing. They're not just training, they're growing. They're in an anabolic state until 22 to 24. For boys, almost 18. For females, and bone for both male and female are still going until age 24, 25 to 30. So that's one of the lingering things that goes on past all the other stuff. So, think about the math. If I was working with you and you weighed 160 and you're 16 and I know you played first base, I go, you weigh 160. And I know you want to play major league. I go, well, the average major leaguer has 191 pounds of lean weight. So we need to gain roughly, the average is 15 to 20 pounds of lean weight a year. Can some do more than that? Yes, but it is harder than crud. It is hard. It is hard work. Once in a blue moon, you get somebody who's an outlier. But people who say, oh, I can gain 20 pounds in a month. I go, well, unless you grew 1 inch or 3 inches, because it's roughly 6 pounds per inch, you're likely putting on body fat. And that's not going to help velo. That's not going to help foot speed. You're just going to be slower and fatter. And so that's not going to help me make you a better athlete. And so that's why when I tell people, I'm like, no, you can't outrun me. You can't outtime me 99% of the time. Once in a blue moon, you have an outlier. And I've had a couple and they blow my mind, blow my mind away. But I've only seen it with coming off an ACL rehab, not lifting, 17 years old, and ate like pure crap. And they literally okay, Don, I'll do what you said. And this kid did that. He just goes, okay, you told me what to do and you did my menu and I'm working with you. So I'm just going to do it. Most people need some time to just flip a switch. Nope, he just went with it. And the child put on 40 pounds of lean weight in 3 months. I go, that's not supposed to happen. But I think it was just all the conditions were in the right place for that to happen. But I want your listeners to understand, if you're 16 and you go, I play first base and I go, well, then guess what, kiddo? You're a sophomore. All right. And we're going to put on 15 to 20. So that puts you at 180. And sometimes I don't even go higher in weight. I just go, we need to lose some fat and gain muscle. So we might gain 10 pounds of weight on the scale, but we're putting on 20. So we're losing 10 pounds of fat but we're gaining 20 pounds of muscle, because that's what it tells us. Because you know what? Those coaches want you to see how you can hit. Muscle's going to help you hit. I can't play for you, and I can't be your sports psychologist. And that's where you come in. Like, I can't do all of that. But nutritionally, making you slower and having more body fat is not going to help you. But just because you're not a certain weight doesn't mean you're not more powerful and quicker. So they want to see quickness and athleticism because they can train that. So then you're like, well, okay, so let's just do the 160. Then we're 175 by your junior year. By your senior year, right, you're at 190. Okay, well, I don't know how much of that. We're going to just say you weigh total of 190. Okay, you're closer to that major league status. You're going to have to still go another year. So this is why people don't understand, like, well, it's going to happen. I'm like, no, it's not going to just happen if you show up for batting practice.
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to happen just because you eat cheeseburgers. Good luck with that.
How should players go about actually getting tested for that? Because, everyone has a scale, right? But not everyone knows exactly, some of the things that you're talking about in terms of, 191 pounds for the average first baseman, things like that.
Yeah. So, and I'm so sorry, I'm multitasking on your podcast. Is that I actually do body composition, and I use a bod pod. So at my office, it's an egg-shaped like chamber that measures body composition. It's very accurate. The Reds use an in-body. It's pretty accurate, but sometimes my bigger guys, I had one Reds player who actually came to see me because he was great at hydrating. He knows hydration, right? Eyesight, building muscle, recovery. There's many, and he's got that down. There's ways to measure that. And he's like, they tell me I'm at 15 or I'm at 9%, but I know I'm not at 9. He's very in tune to his body. So when he came to see me, he was at 15. So sometimes the in-body can fluctuate a little bit, and sometimes it's right on. But there are other means to test that. Now, if I'm working with somebody long distance, I see if there's something close by, but we also can do measurements. So there's measurements that you can do online, like 9 to 12 sites. And at least it gives us an idea. And what you need to do is not just focus on percent body fat. You need to focus on how much lean weight that really is. And then on my side of the fence, it's not just about eating. And eating well and eating the right mix at the right times, 80 to 90% of the time. Did you hear me? I didn't say 100%, 80 to 90% of the time. Now we have a roadmap on how we can work together to help get you there, right? Now, I don't strength train you, but that means you have to focus on that too, along with hitting and stuff, because how are you going to hit further? Well, you got to have more lean, like you said, more mass. Force times acceleration, right? And so now we have a better idea how you have a game plan to get to that mass. And now you've created an opportunity for yourself, a fighting chance of maximizing that. So that's where I come in as well, is it's not just about eating, but it's about like having a game plan or a roadmap on how to achieve that leanness, to how much fat do you might need to lose, how much muscle do you need to gain, and then we can set goals each year. And some kids are there sooner than others. Like there's a kid in Iowa where his lean weight at such a young age was very high, and I go, well, that's why you're where you're at. That's why you're looked at such a young age. Obviously, he had to train. Obviously, he has to hit the ball. Obviously, you have to throw the ball. Just because you have a lot of lean doesn't mean you're great at a baseball. You might not be great at anything except have a great amount of lean weight. But that's why these athletes are so phenomenal sometimes, if they have that amount of lean weight and they didn't have to work that hard for it. But
that's all. I mean, I 100% agree with what you're saying. And I think, honestly, the content that you've provided in this episode has been outstanding. I think there's going to be so many people who are going to be able to just make improvement right away, just from some of the things that you've talked about and explained. And if someone does want to work with you, reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so there's many ways. You can easily just reach out to me. My business number is 513-779-6444. Again, 513-779-6444. And it's funny because now nobody calls anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can, that one you cannot text on. That's a landline. So I'm just giving you a heads up. If you try to text that number, you're not going to get, it's not going through. And then you can also Facebook me, Twitter, Dawn Weatherwax, DAWN. I always say like the Dawn liquid soap, Weatherwax, like the weather outside, and wax your cars. If you can put that all together, like Dawn soap, cleaning your car and the weather outside and waxing it, you can remember me and you can find me. And then info@sn2g.com or dawnweatherwax.com.
We'll put all those links in the show notes. We'll put all those links in the show notes. But I appreciate it.
You'll find me.
Right. So. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's been outstanding. This is the first time we've done nutrition specifically on this podcast. And I think it's, I wish I would have done it sooner, if anything. So I appreciate it.
We can always break it into more parts. As you can tell, we really cover a lot, and we could take down hydration and talk to about it for a whole hour. Right. So. Right. For your listeners out there, the biggest thing is understand what you're eating and how many calories you need. 2 is limit the freebies, right? 30 grams or less of added sugar a day, 10% less saturated fat a day. Love you to get 30 to 40 grams of fiber a day. Let's hydrate, folks. Half your weight in fluid ounces a day, plus 10 to 20 ounces per activity. With a side note, some of you need way more than that, and really understand your body composition if you really want that opportunity to play at a collegiate or a higher level. And it's a science. It's not just TikToking and somebody telling you, man, I can put in some muscle, just eat food or don't eat sugar. You just got to go, okay, let's get some real facts out there and let's do it the right way.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dawn.
Thank you. Have a great day.